this moratorium that would be placed by this bill, does this moratorium apply only to high-volume horizontal fracking or to other forms of gas extraction?
It applies to drilling in low permeability shale formations, specifically such as the Marcellus and Utica, which are specified in the bill.
Sure, but
as a practical matter, horizontal hydrofracking, the high-volume hydrofracking, which isn't occurring in those locations. But as a practical matter, other types of drilling really don't work in those shale formations because you can't really extract gas with, let's say, vertical drilling in the Marcellus. There's a couple of scattered wells here and there. To the best of our knowledge, they actually aren't producing any gas.
Well, actually, I have 32 wells in my district alone. They're vertically drilled wells using hydrofracking fluid, small volumes, and those have been around for many, many years. So I guess with the language that's in this bill, my reading of it says that those types of wells we would not be able to apply for permits as well.
Well, forgive me, but is the locations you're referring to in the Marcellus or Utica?
Yes, it's in Utica.
Well, the type of fracking is really not the issue here. It's the formation, it's the location of the wells.
Okay, but the language of the bill specifically says drilling of wells for natural gas extraction. It doesn't specify just high volume horizontal.
Well, it says, no, that's right, but it says in low permeability shales, gas pools such as the Marcellus and Utica shale formations.
Right.
According to DEC, wells other than high volume, which is not taking place in the state right now, are essentially not producing gas. There are some out there, but they're not productive because you can't really get. That's why they want to go to high volume, because the horizontal hydrofracking, because you can't really get gas from the type of drilling that's taken place in the past. And according to DEC, what they told us is there's a few permits here and there, but they're not actually producing gas.
Well, when I talk to the individuals in my district, what I'm hearing is something a little bit different. What I'm hearing is that they want to be able to come in and do the horizontal because the results would be much greater than doing a vertical well, but they haven't been applying for the permits because they're waiting for these draft regulations to be finalized. But since it's taking so many years to do this, certainly vertical drilling is a possibility, but if this bill passes, they would no longer be allowed to do that.
Well, I think I would have to disagree that vertical drilling is a possibility when DEC tells us that those types of wells in these shale formations are not producing gas. I doubt very much that they're going to spend the time and the money to drill wells that are unlikely to produce gas, especially if there is some prospect of getting permits down the road for the type of drilling that will produce gas.
Well, how likely those prospects are is looking dimmer and dimmer as we go through time here. The low-volume vertical drilling that's been done in New York since the 1940s. We've had a regulatory program in place since 1972. Have we had any experiences of problems? I mean, is there any reason to think that we should be trying to stop that type of drilling?
Have there been problems with vertical drilling? Yes.
That have been a problem?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's been accidents. There's been the same type of problems that are attributable to high-volume horizontal hydrofracking. There's been industrial accidents. There's been people who claim health problems. It's exactly the same sort of situation.
Well, like I said, I can speak for my district. In my district, these 32 wells, we've never had any kinds of issues, and this has been going on since the 40s. And certainly any kind of small issues have been dealt with, certainly nothing that would warrant a moratorium on any kind of future permitting. Just moving on here, Governor Patterson had vetoed a similar bill back in 2010, in part because in his mind it encompassed vertical and horizontal drilling. In fact, I'll read from his veto message. The expansive definition of hydraulic fracturing in the bill would prevent numerous individuals who've been drilling for oil and gas from obtaining a permit from doing so, costing the state hundreds or perhaps thousands of jobs. Now, is that something we're prepared to do by passing this bill?
Well, I suspect that Governor Patterson is going to have little to say about the prospects of this bill. And, you know, someone else may see it differently. But you know what? Quite frankly, if we have to do some sort of, when we do a bill with the Senate, if we have to do some sort of clarification, I'm fine with that. I'm telling you what the intent of the bill is. If we, you know, if we have a difference and we have to do a clarification, we'll do it. Well, I don't want to get distracted by issues that are not relevant to the bill.
I don't know if I would necessarily call this a distraction. What we're talking about doing is taking away the opportunity for people to be able to lease their properties out for vertical drilling, which has been proven to be safe in New York State for many, many years. We've got a regulatory program in place since 1972, which up until this fracking horizontal issues come up never seemed to be a problem. Now we're talking about stopping that for the sake of pursuing some sort of controls over high volume fracking.
No, I think you're confusing the issues here. You're talking about vertical drilling generally, like in other areas of the state, for example, where it is prevalent and where it's been going on for many years, and it is productive, and it's not affected by this bill.
But
this bill refers.
No, but I have to disagree with you that because the language of the bill specifically states, and let me find it here, that the wells, let's see, suspending the issuance of permits for drilling of wells for natural gas extraction. Now, that would encompass
low permeability shale, read the whole thing, in low permeability shale formations such as the Marcellus and the Utica. Anything outside of Marcellus and Utica, any kind of drilling outside of Marcellus and Utica is not affected by this bill.
But these are in the Utica shale.
But you just made reference a minute ago to vertical drilling, generally speaking, such as, you know, in other areas of the state. Unlike previous bills that we've considered on this floor, that type of drilling is not part of this bill.
Well, like I said, the language of the bill says permits for drilling of wells for natural gas extraction in Utica and Marcellus. These are wells that are in the Utica, so therefore they would be affected by it.
Well, I'll try this one more time because I don't want to beat a dead horse. That's not the intent of the bill. And if there's some clarification that is necessary somewhere along the way before this passes the Senate and goes to the governor, I'm happy to do that because that's not the intent of the bill.
I understand that. Moving on. Governor Cuomo had issued an executive order. Actually, Governor Patterson started with the executive order. Governor Cuomo extended it. It says no permits can be issued until the final regulations are completed. Is this not already a de facto moratorium on this kind of drilling process?
Well, I know I wouldn't consider it a moratorium because it's something that could change tomorrow without any input from the legislature, which I think is appropriate. You know, the health commissioner just last month, in his letter to the commissioner of DEC, with regard to the deadlines that occurred and expired last month, made reference to the fact that more time is needed. He specifically referenced 3 studies, all of which we believe will not be completed before 2015. And so we have built this bill accordingly to deal directly with the concerns expressed by the health commissioner and the issues that he stated in his letter. And so that's where the time frame comes from. And so I think what would be appropriate so that everybody knows what's happening and what's going to happen is that there be a very specific moratorium in statute that allows everybody, the health department, the DEC, the private industries, the general public, everybody to know what's going to happen and within what time frame. That's not the story now.
Okay. If we could just talk about the study, since you brought it up. This bill requires a school of public health within the SUNY system to conduct the health assessment. How many schools of public health qualify?
There's at least 3.
3 whole ones. Okay. And
Albany, Buffalo, and downstate.
Okay. And how would it be decided which one would
SUNY. SUNY would decide.
So they would make the decision.
We want it to be independent.
Okay. Sure. Now, as you mentioned, the Department of Health is currently looking at studies. EPA is doing a study. Why do we need another study?
Well, the EPA study is one of the studies that the health commissioner cited and which will probably not be completed until 2015. The other studies are both taking place or I think maybe at least one of them is not yet even underway. in Pennsylvania, which is a different state with a different geology and different considerations. There is no health impact assessment that has taken place in the state of New York, looking at our specific circumstances. And what the health department is doing now is not a health impact assessment. You know, they've, as far as we can tell, because this has not been a transparent process, as far as we can tell, they've retained some scientists who are looking at the S-guys to figure out whether or not the S-guys took everything into consideration that it should. That's not a health impact assessment of any description. And it's appropriate and necessary, I think, because public health and safety should be the #1 consideration before we do anything. I mean, can't begin to tell you, I've forgotten how many hearings on this subject, including one with Assemblyman Gottfried solely on the issue of health impacts. And you know what we heard was in those hearings, in all of those hearings, about health was very, very concerning. And I think health issues get raised just about more than anything else. And so it's important, I think, for New York to have its own independent health impact assessment, something that is not taking place now, and that is specific to New York State.
Okay. Now, this study, well, the School of Public Health would be required to hold 2 public hearings and have a 120-day public comment period.
Yes.
And then if there are any changes recommended to the study through those comments, then they would have to start again with 2 more public hearings and another 120-day public comment period.
There could be another comment period. That would be the second comment period at the discretion of SUNY. They also have a deadline, which is April 15th of 2015.
Okay.
We're not looking for this to drag on forever. We want it to be completed within the time of the moratorium, and so we wanted to very specifically include a deadline.
Yeah, well, you certainly want to rush it along because we've only been at this for, what, now 4 years?
No, we haven't done a health impact. We've been at nothing. We've been at nothing for all these years. I mean, that's my assessment of where we are. I've been saying for years that we should do a cost-benefit analysis of the whole thing, you know, to draw all the aspects of, well, no, we haven't done that either. You know, there's a lot of things that we could have been doing in the last few years that we haven't been doing, but we need to do before a final decision is made.
Okay. And finally, one question. As far as the moratorium is concerned, the moratorium would stay in place for how long?
May 15th of 2015.
Okay, regardless of when this study would be done. So if this study takes up until that time, if the study goes beyond that time,
The study is required to be done by a month earlier, April 15th of 2015. And that gives us a month to consider what the results of the study show.
Okay.
And if you know what, if it's done earlier, we can always revisit it at that time, depending on the results of the study.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. I appreciate that. On the bill, Mr. Speaker.